Hello, and welcome to the Nebraska Wesleyan University Theater Podcast, the podcast made by the students, staff, and faculty of Nebraska Wesleyan's Theater Department for patrons like you. Today we are talking with Ryan Kathman, the director of A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder.
It's a mouthful, yeah.
It is, yeah. Hi, Ryan.
Hello.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the show?
I can try. So it's, as far as genre goes, it sounds like it'd be a murder mystery, and it's technically not. There's no mystery really about who's doing all the murdering in the show, but it is very much a dark comic romance farce period piece that was written only about 10 or 12 years ago. So it's a very recent musical in the vein and in the mode of Gilbert and Sullivan and a lot of kind of golden age classic pieces that I think both in the way it's written and in the way that we're approaching it feels very vaudevillian too. So, early 20th century style of play into a rowdy house and broad characterizations and wild antics. So that is not a short description, but that's just talking about the tone and the style of it. I mean, the plot is another thing. Do you want me to talk about that too?
Sure. Anything you want.
I'll just give away everything. No, I mean, the basic premise is that there is a young man in, again, Edwardian era England. So this is just a short 10-year period after Victorian, the long 60-something year period, of a young man who is pretty lower class, but discovers through finding his original birth certificate that he is in line to be heir to an earldom, that he has the chance to be, which is a pretty high position in British society, both at the time and still now. And the only thing that stands in his way is 8 other relatives. So he figures, not immediately, but circumstances lead him to decide, well, I'm just going to help that along by taking care in the mafia way, those 8 relatives. And so it's about that as well as the romance part. It is called Love and Murder, so it's about his budding relationships with actually 2 different women. So there's a bit of a love triangle element to it as well. And I can't help but nerd out for a second and talk about, because I'm fascinated by the origins of this story, just because you don't see this that often. So it started as a novel from, I think it was 1908, maybe it was around there, but somewhere between 1908 and 1912, called Israel Rank. That was the name of the main character, Israel Rank. And it was the same basic plot of a guy who realizes, if I could just get rid of all these relatives I just discovered I had, I can become Earl. And it was popular. It was very darkly comic. It was made into a movie in the late 1930s, early 1940s. Should have all this in front of me. I knew it when I first talked to the students about it. That was called, it had totally different title, totally different character names, and starred Sir Alec Guinness, who is the guy who played Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yes, this was like in his early time. And it was called Kind Hearts and Coronets. I was stalling for time until I could think of the title, Kind Hearts and Coronets. And same idea, just different characters. So to go from a book, change the title of the book, change the character names, to a movie, change the title of it and the character names. And then they made a musical in 2015-ish, 2014, something like that. And they did it again. Totally different character names. A few of them are the same as the original book, and totally different title, Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. And just to kind of keep it going, a movie just came out in February called, oh my gosh, what was it called? How to Make a Killing. How to Make a Killing. Glenn Powell, new hot young superstar, is in it, and same idea, except it's contemporary. It's modern day, different character names, different titles. So I'm just fascinated by how this same plot that started as a mildly successful novel in the early 20th century has come around a bunch of times, been renamed, got different character names, and anyway, that's
this was a whole debate in the department last year, was no story is truly original. There were so many times where someone would be like, oh, but this story is original, and then someone would find like, oh, no, well, it's actually based off of this thing from 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
Yeah, there's a theory that there's basically 7 different storylines, or approximately that just get recycled in different ways. Coming of age, fish out of water, these different kind of tropes that we're used to seeing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a really cool summary of the story. And I think the biggest draw that I've heard from the show is the amount of different set pieces that you guys have and you're constantly rotating through.
It is a lot of changes. It's a lot of changes of many kinds. Yes, there are locale changes, and unlike a typical musical, I don't know about typical, but a lot of musicals certainly go the route of we're going to wheel on a whole new set or bring in a wagon and we're going to use a lot of different drops, and we're going to have, we are trying to embrace the kind of vaudevillian approach of we have a unit set and we have this great Austrian-style curtain, which is the kind that have a lot of ruffles in it going all the way down. And it's going to lower down, and we'll play some scenes in front of it on the apron. And then when it rises up, there's a different look behind the curtain that has been changed while the other scene was happening. It was a style that the Broadway production uses as well. We've definitely found our own way into it and have hopefully some fun surprises and interesting choices that aren't exactly how things were done on Broadway. In fact, I think we're attempting some bigger swings in some respects than they did. And the other thing that I haven't mentioned yet that I probably should, that is a good reason for people to come check it out, is in that Alec Guinness movie in the, I still want to say early 40s, Kind Hearts and Coronets. The reason I mention his name is because he famously played 8 different roles in the movie. He played all of the family members who were being taken out, including a couple of female characters. And so he's doing all these different wigs and mustaches and slightly different dialects. And so if you've ever wanted to see what Obi-Wan Kenobi can really do as an actor, like, it's a great movie for that reason. And the musical embraced that as well. In fact, there's like some behind-the-scenes legal drama. They were trying to make Kind Hearts and Coronets the musical, but there was some kind of legal issue, and so they ended up changing the name primarily because they couldn't use it. But they kept that idea of one actor playing all of these family members, which is even more of a feat when you can't say cut and have them go put on a new costume, for the next shot. So it's all happening in the 2 hours or so of the show, that one actor runs off stage and has to very quickly be changed into another character, all of whom have the last name of Dysquith, which is a very, in itself, funny, weird name, Dysquith. D''Y, Squith, yeah. And
it has been really funny walking past the costume closet and seeing you have an extra rack that you've added on of just costumes for the Dysquiths.
Just Dysquiths, yeah.
And going back briefly to the sets, I've always noticed that your sets in particular have been particularly vibrant, especially with Matilda last year. Everything there was just so bright and vibrant, and it was moving a lot, but not in ways that distracted, just kind of helped build the world.
Well, that's great. I mean, yeah, I certainly don't know that it's necessarily a trend for things that I've directed. It was certainly these 2 musicals have lend themselves to being vibrant and bright in their own way, and a sense of whimsy, I suppose. Matilda makes sense, and certainly this show as well. But it's really just a matter of what the show needs, and I am by no stretch of the imagination the scenic designer for these things, But it is fun to get to collaborate with scenic designers and designers of all kind on trying to get on the same page of the approach and the style to this and to these shows. And for this one, the kind of guiding metaphor, it's maybe a little bit forced, but is the idea of a jack-in-the-box that is constantly popping up, and every time it does has a different surprise to it instead of being the same thing every time. And if you want to continue to expand the image, maybe sometimes he's got an axe in his hand too. But the point is, there are things that will surprise you, and yet there's something very classic and traditional and familiar about it, which is what I like about this being a newer musical that's clearly based on a history of early musical theater.
Now, as you're directing this, you're also teaching quite a few classes. You're teaching directing and stage combat, which we've had quite a few of our students come in and talk about their directing projects. So, what has it been like for the past years you worked here, just kind of heading the directing program and just kind of helping teach students and watch them grow as directors?
It's simultaneously by far one of my favorite things that I get to be a part of here, and one of the most challenging things that I'm a part of here. We really put ourselves in positions to kind of see what we're made of in terms of the students, myself, I think to a lesser degree, but just especially what students take on in a very peer-driven, collaborative. I mean, it's one of the most collaborative things that I can think of that Wesleyan as a university does in terms of how much the students have to rely on each other and work together to make these projects come to fruition. For my part, I just continue to try to refine the level of instruction and guidance and suggestions and I guess mentorship that I feel like I can give them in the classroom, but also outside of it by trying to come to rehearsals, assisting with unique elements like stage combat or intimacy or just content, being able to mitigate the content of these shows to make them palatable for audiences. They're very public facing. Everybody's welcome to come attend them, and we do get a nice turnout, more often than not, from not just students but also community members who like to come support these projects. So I feel a lot of responsibility to try to make it worth everyone's time as best I can, and I get a lot of gratification and just enjoyment out of seeing when students are feeling really proud of all their hard work, and aside from that, like a lot of the work is of a level and of a quality that I think stands up and can be held up to just about anything we do. There's just a lot of creativity, even if the resources sometimes are less and the time is less. But it's a bit of a sandbox, I like to think of it, and a chance to put into practice what they're getting in their classes with a little more autonomy and creativity than they sometimes are able to have in a main stage production or the kind of things they're doing for other classes on a smaller scale, like scene work and things like that. So it's great, but it's endlessly challenging. Yeah.
I remember coming in here and hearing the recruiting pitch like, oh, yeah, we do about 50 shows a year. And I was like, there's no way that's real. And then coming in and getting to work in the student directs. The first show I ever did here was a student direct, and it was only about a month into the start of my freshman year. And I was already on stage, and I'm like, yeah, this is where I want to be. This is a chance for me to get to play around and have fun, make connections with friends in places that you might not have classes with that person, or maybe you do and you get to hang out more with them and build bonds. And I think that was really one of the best decisions, was to come in a place where you're not just going to be sitting on the shelf for 1 or 2 years learning and not getting the chance to really put into practice what you're learning in your classes and just waiting for those seniors to graduate so you can have your shot at the stage.
I'm glad to hear it. That's great. I mean, that's certainly the intention. It's very ambitious, and we only half jokingly say that we do too much theater. To keep things accurate, I'll say that hopefully we were saying when recruiting that it's closer to 40 shows. It might have been at that time maybe 50 but we have settled into around 40 shows a year. That's more accurate now, which is more than enough. And I feel like I should mention too, even though it just popped in my head, that it's, the student directing is the area where we've been able to explore some other mediums too. So we have film projects that get made there too. We've had 4 of them made this year and over the course of the 2 semesters. And it's just an option for directing 2 and directing 3 students to try their hand at that, even though we're not blessed with all of the equipment that a true film department would have. But I like to say we have enough to be dangerous, and there's a MW Student Film Festival that we have scheduled for Wednesday, the 29th of April. So just about a week and a half away, and I really need to get out there promoting it. So I'm choosing to use this right now to do that, where we're going to feature all the student films that have been made in the last 2 years, because we've been able to have 2 film festivals prior to this, but we've been doing it every 2 years because that's about how long it takes to kind of collect enough to have a good showing.
Yeah. Ben did also mention this, and
Good.
also mentioned that WITS will also be helping perform, which is another great resource we have here, being able to do this kind of improv. I remember last year, Rose Scott led an improv show, kind of based around Saturday Night Live.
Oh, that was a sketch comedy show.
Sketch comedy, yeah.
There's been many. I'm in my 9th year, and there have been many times over my entire time here that students have a wild idea or a bold idea, a great idea, and something I really appreciate about our department is that the faculty is always looking for a way to support it, looking for a way to say yes and try to make it happen if possible. It's not always possible, but that was an independent project that a student did last year, and this is something that Ben and a few other students have cooked up this year, and I really hope, since he and a few others are going to be graduating, I hope it survives and continues on, because it's got a great mission of supporting students as playwrights and creatives, making their own stuff, devised pieces, creating their original work of one kind or another. So yes, you're right. I should mention that on that film festival night, we hope to be featuring some original pieces from the WITS participants as well. Yeah.
And kind of stepping outside of Wesleyan here, you've also done community theater work around Lincoln and helped direct and act in shows in the community. So what's it like being able to work in Lincoln and teach in the community?
I mean, I've definitely chosen to try to stay local for what I've done in the last several years because I've got 2 kids who are still reasonably young. They're both about to be in high school, but my hope has been to be able to stick around here, even though there have been times over both when they were born and before they were born that I did kind of travel around and worked a lot of different states as a theater artist of one kind or another. But I have worked here in Lincoln for or with Flatwater Shakespeare and with Angels Theater Company, and in Omaha I've gotten to get some gigs at the Blue Barn Theater and with a kind of upstart company called Old School Shakespeare Omaha. I'm actually going to be doing something with them in early May, so just a few weeks from now, and it's great because they do all tend to be ways to keep the professional skills going, but just also making connections in the community. I've worked at several different high schools and Lincoln Community Playhouse, I should mention, I've gotten to be a part of as a director and an actor over the years too. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about for us today?
No, man, other than to say that I think that this whole project that you're doing is another great example of ingenuity. It's totally student driven, totally you're coming out of your own brain, and I'm so glad that you're keeping it going because I think it's a great way to try to get the word out, not only about what we're doing, but for you to learn more about all the different people and get to meet and find out more insights from everybody that you're working with. So
don't inflate my ego too much.
Not my intention.
Yeah.
It'd be hard.
Yeah, this has been a really fun project, getting able to put this together, and it's honestly at the point where it just feels like having a conversation. I think that's the most fun I've had in a while with an extra project, is just being able to sit down and talk. I remember for a little bit of time here, I was struggling to find that connection. Everything was so busy. And this past half a year, really, it's been nice to sit down and just kind of talk with people. I've popped into professors' offices more and just sat down and had a talk, made a joke that ends up getting put into Midsummer, playing the flute. And just rebuilding those relationships. And I think, as Ashton touched on recently, it's really nice finding that balance of being able to do your work and then being able to relax and have fun and just enjoy building these connections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's really what's going to be a career longevity factor. Is it's the relationships and the ability to enjoy what you're doing. And if it constantly feels like work, you might burn out a lot sooner. Or it's a way to help avoid that. I hope is to be able to step back and appreciate it and reflect on it. So I'm glad you're doing that. Yeah.
So for Gentleman's Guide, when are those dates coming up?
We open in less than a week, Bobby. It is April 23rd through the 26th, and it's 7:30 every night except for 2 p.m. on the 26th. But then there's a second weekend after that, which I believe is April 30th through May 3rd. Same idea, 7:30 in the evenings, 2 o'clock on Sundays. Yeah.
And make sure to book your tickets at Nebraska Wesleyan Theater.
Please do.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for coming in and talking, Ryan.
No problem. Anytime.
This week in the department, make sure you come support us at A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, as Ryan said. As we approach the end of the semester, it's important to remember, take time for yourself and make sure that you won't burn yourself out. Big thanks to Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com for letting us use his piece Dreamer, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll tune in next week.